It's not safe right now, actually. Oh, yeah. Back away.
You got to play both parts of the demo, right? Because there's two demo stages. Yeah, I only got to play the first one, which was like very much like the opening scene of RE4, where there's just you're in like a village and there's a bunch of fucking zombies coming from every angle, and you're waiting for, I don't know, your dude in a helicopter with a rocket launcher to come and, I guess, open a door so you can get the fuck out of there. It was pretty fucking intense. Like, I had very little ammo the whole time, and if my partner wasn't there giving me shots of adrenaline to heal me and fucking
spraying you with head on.
Yeah, spraying me with head on and handing me shotgun shells and stabbing zombies with her machete, then I would have died.
It's like, well, how do I even begin to break this down without it sounding exactly like Resident Evil 4?
Right.
And that's the thing, is like, in the most simple sense, it's like an HD Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, totally.
But in Africa.
Yeah.
When you play RE5, the demo here in this village, you know, there are certain parts of it that are very reminiscent of RE4. You're pushing the bookshelf in front of the door, people are trying to get in, you're fighting a chainsaw guy. Do you think there'll be criticisms that you're playing it too safe and it's too similar to RE4, or was that a deliberate demo you guys made to remind us of RE4?
We've prepared this demo to make it easy for players who've played Resident Evil 4 to understand what it's about very easily. However, there will be lots of new areas and lots of new elements, and we're confident that people won't be criticizing it for being too similar to Resident Evil 4. However, one of the things that we always have to keep in mind is that if we don't have things that are similar to Resident Evil 4, people are going to complain about that as well.
So as I was playing, I wasn't aware that it has online co-op, you know. And as I was playing, I was like, okay, this is great. Rather than Ashley, it was Shiva. She was just like totally, you know, self-sufficient. She's definitely not President's daughter who hides in trash cans and stuff, you know, while you fight. And so I was doing all this, and it's like appreciating how the levels are set up so that, you know, she can take one route and you're able to defend her and she's defending you. And it's nice to be able to like say, hey, like give me some ammo, I'm out, you know. Or like you see she picks up some red gun, you're like, why am I using the pistol? Like give me that thing, you can have the pistol. Totally. And then when I found out that it's online, all that stuff immediately snapped. It's like, okay, imagine if I'm doing this with Ryan or whoever. Now, I mean, that's pretty substantial to me. I really look forward to that.
Totally. I think the co-op thing is huge.
How does the co-op play work online? Can my other player just jump in and jump out, or is it a separate campaign that we have to start together?
We've created a system that is very easy for all players to use, and you will be able to jump in and out of the single player campaign anytime, and when the second player leaves, the AI will automatically take over and control Sheva for you.
What was most surprising to me was how self-sufficient and how well animated and the co-op character is, and the fact that like she looks cooler than you the whole time, you know, like she will do a backflip and kick an enemy right in the head and they'll fall down on the floor, and then, you know, come over and heal you, and then stab someone, like do some sweet jumping, like diving stab down on some enemy on the ground.
Like throw her across like a balcony if you want her to get to some area where you can't go.
Totally, and she's a good shot. She's always covering you if you know. Oh, and the other thing is, like, once you're out of combat and you're like searching around the environment, exploring or whatever, she'll usually go to or stand kind of near the place where you're supposed to go, like towards the exit of that area, so you can wander around, and then if you see her over there, that's probably the direction you want to head to like get out of the level or whatever. So that's cool. I think she's going to end up being a really cool element, like to push the game forward. But of course, if you're playing with co-op, it's going to be even better because your friend's going to be there and you're going to be able to pull off all this sick shit.
You can make too, it's like a good way to make games like really unnerving and like not have it get to you when you have like a buddy. The whole thing with this game, right, is like building, it's not like, you know, people complain also about mobility and stuff, but it's not like the people that make this game, they're obviously very brilliant at what they do. And you look at, you know, Resident Evil 4 and stuff, it's not like they're trying to crack how you make a character move and shoot at the same time. I mean,
they could do it if they want, you know.
But there's people that act like that. But it's like the whole thing is like deliberately making the game somewhat cumbersome to control, but just to build in the element of, you know, of suspense and fear. And it's like, I mean, I know like Shane was really into this idea that you're going to be able to strafe and shoot and stuff.
Konami's Metal Gear Solid 4 recently came out, and they radically changed the gameplay. And some people are wondering, you know, will Resident Evil ever change the aiming and shooting mechanic? Or would that fundamentally break the tension of the game? And I'm just curious, how do you feel? Like, when people say you should allow people to move and shoot at the same time?
I can't exactly say whether you'll be able to move and shoot at the same time. However, I can say that it's not that far away that you might see a big shift or a big change in the controls of Resident Evil.
Imagine if the game controlled like Gears of War, you know? More or less the same camera stuff. And the enemies are the way. And if you didn't remake the entire game, would it really be that cool?
I think it would totally change it. When I was playing now, choosing between retreating and going to your menu and re-equipping or changing weapons or healing yourself or whatever, meeting up with your co-op partner, or standing in one place and shooting. And the nice thing, I think, is that even though you feel a little bit slow when you're moving around, when you're shooting, you're like a complete badass. And once you've played for like 10 or 15 minutes, or I don't know, I guess if you played RE4 as well, you really can like shoot this guy in the knee, this guy in the hand to knock the bottle out of his hand, and then headshot on these two guys, because you're just standing there, and then thus aiming is pretty easy.
Right. I always find it's frustrating for like the first 10 minutes that you play until you just like reacquaint yourself with like this game's own rule set, you know?
Right.
And after that, it seems really natural. It's cool that you can use the other player as bait too, you know? Like you can have someone like basically run by them.
Right.
Kind of like blow him a raspberry and then have him chase after him. I mean, you know, and then like shoot him in the back until he comes back for you. I think a lot of that'd be cool.
In the demo level, at one point, Chris is in one area and Shiva goes to this other building and you support her. So you know, throughout the game, will there be parts where they split up and you'll only be able to see this one path if you're playing as Shiva?
There will be elements like that. There'll be times where you'll fight side by side with your partner. There'll be other times where your partner will back you up from a little bit of distance away, say with the sniper rifle. And there'll also be times where you're completely split up. By using those 3 different distances in the game, you'll be able to go through the game, and there'll be many different experiences you can have.
We know about how much variety in environments and stuff there was in Resident Evil 4, even though it was all basically in the same sort of a state. It's like you're in these underground castles, you're out in these fields, then you're on like islands, and
I
you're
couldn't
in all
have
these
been more
different
happy
places.
with the variety in RE4, totally.
Yeah, and I expect that here. I mean, they showed that one trailer where it looks like Mad Max, you know, you're out riding bikes around and stuff in the total wasteland. What about in this, like the enemies, you know how normally when you shoot off a Ganato's head, that tentacle monster would come out, but then they would become more difficult.
Some of the enemies before the tentacle monster would pop out, if they got up close to you, they would open their mouth and go, and inside you could see the tentacle monster like beginning to come out of them. I don't know if because you know how some zombies don't have the tentacle monster and some do or whatever. I feel like you might be able to see which ones are going to be a little bit harder to kill before you actually pop their heads off.
Yeah, that was an easy section because it's a demo for mass consumption and like very quick turnaround. But you know, I mean, you know, you see the guys who got like flaming crossbows and all the hatchets and stuff. You know, when they ramp up the difficulty and you're playing a normal setting in your own house after you've learned to play it, like it's gonna get insanely tough.
If nothing else, what this demo proves is that in terms of the number of zombies they'll throw at you in any given time, it's far greater than the first game, or than RE4. In this battle that I was fighting against, you know, you had one zombie that was more tough than everyone else, and so part of it was like trying to get away from the massive zombies coming at you, take out a couple of those, you know, go work with your co-op partner and get healed, get some ammo or whatever, and then keep focusing fire on this like giant beast that's like 10 times stronger than anything else in the environment.
The game of keep away is fun too, and it's totally built into their level design. So it's like, you know, when you enter these areas, there are towers you can climb up, there are second floors of buildings, you know, you can go down to their basements. There's all these places you can go, and it's like, it's not designed so you're just like going straight through it. It's like once the onslaught comes, you know, and the horde starts rushing out, you're constantly going, maybe you climb up a tower, kick a ladder down, they find another way up. There's so many ways. The thing is that they're slow, but they're so persistent. You know, I got to this one balcony, and Shiva was sniping down there, and I was throwing grenades and stuff down there, and I turn around, and next thing I know, one of them was like grabbing her. You know, they found this way up the ladder behind us that we came up. You know, it's kind of like Pac-Man in a way.
A little bit,
kind of like making it up. It's like, you know, you're running half the time, but then all of a sudden it's like the equivalent of getting your power pellet. You're like, I got a good position, I'm gonna stop and shoot 5 of them, then I'm gonna run again until I reload, get more ammo and stuff, and then I'm gonna like shoot them some more. It works out well.
It does do the thing that, you know, you and I complain about quite often, which is it still has fucking exploding barrels like
all
sitting around the environment. But one cool thing that happened when
environment, that's the one environment though I believe that they would probably be there.
I hope so, man.
When I say
really
shitty,
do.
I should clarify too. I don't mean it was like when I said a shitty African town, I don't mean that it's like it's shitty because it's African, but it's a shitty town in Africa, and it's like it would be a shitty town no matter where it's at, you know. But it's like it's made of, you know, it's like corrugated aluminum siding and cardboard houses and stuff, and there's gonna be propane tanks laying around.
That was what was so cool about it, is when I shot them, I thought that it was gonna blow open this this door, the path to the next area, you know, open the arena up, but it didn't do that. What it did is I shot them, and it set this whole like space on fire and took down a bunch of the like little crappy sheds that were in the area. And there was even one that had, I could see through a window that there was some shit in there, like ammo that I wanted to go grab, but I couldn't find a way into the shed. But after I set the fire, a bunch of shit burnt down, and then I could go into those sheds and grab all the crap that was in there. It seems like the environments will be a bit more dynamic this time than they were last time. In most games, you look up at the sky and you see birds flying over, and you hope that you can shoot them. And in some games, when you shoot them and nothing happens, that makes you sad. And in some games, when you shoot them and they explode or whatever, it makes you happy. But in this game, or in 4, you shot them, they exploded, and then they dropped an item like 100% of the time. You know, like a grenade or money or whatever. And that just like, that's a totally sweet reward, or, you know.
Manna from heaven.
I want to play more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I sat there and I left. I wasn't kicked out, but I basically left out of guilt. It's like I know I'm sitting here so long and there's other people that want to play. So I did each of those levels that they had 2 times. Maybe 3 times on the second one because the chainsaw guy kept getting me.
Nice.
And I eventually got him. I was like, all right, man, I'm out of here.
That was all you needed to do, kill that motherfucker.
That's cool. Dude, that's racist. That's racist, yeah.
This is a load screen from the GOAT test you take when you grow up in the vault. You have to sit down in this classroom and there's a slideshow presentation. You know, a hand has grown out of your stomach, what do you do? And the guy reads the questions, and there's other, like, you know, kids in the room. And you can try to, you know, fake the test or talk your way out of it or sit down and take the test.
Does that affect your character?
What it really
like
does,
story?
the GOAT does, is it affects your starting skills. So I'll pull these up. My character's a little bit hacked here, but what you do when you take the GOAT is it'll tag certain skills for you, so they'll start higher. There's no screen where you make your character. You play, like, the whole first half hour of the game is, you know, you have this baby book for learning your special skills, your specials, excuse me, and then you take the GOAT to do skills, and then the first time you level up, when you step out of the vault, you're getting to pick your first perk.
Right.
So those are your, like, special abilities.
Are you getting mileage out of all the characters that first appear in the vault before you leave?
Yep. So you see them when you're 10, you have your birthday party, and you see these little kids, you know, who are also 10, kind of, they're like the snot-nosed kids, you can kind of tell, and they're trying to, like, form their own, like, mock gang. And then when it flashes forward and you're 16, they're in the trailer, you see them, the Tuttle Snakes, and they're actually picking on this girl who's your friend. And now they're actually a real gang, and they have, you know, they're cool vault leather jackets. And they actually become, you know, recurring characters. One of the first things we do in the vault to teach you the karma system, whether you're good or bad, is how you deal with them.
So is the karma system mostly a binary thing? Is it, you know, light side, dark side?
There are definitely multiple ways, and we intentionally hide the numbers. So when you lose karma or gain karma, you just get a message. You've gained karma, you've lost karma, and you kind of have to feel it. We're pretty careful how we do it in dialogue, because we found some people just want to be snarky, but they haven't done anything bad. Like just being a jerk to somebody through dialogue doesn't really lower your karma. It has to be an action. So sometimes you can do actions through dialogue. Really lie to somebody. Don't give them what they want.
Gotcha.
Or give them something they want through dialogue, then that's going to adjust your karma. But just being a dick, generally,
Not so much.
it doesn't. This is the Pip-Boy 3000, so you can see all of your various stats and things like that. The general tab will keep track of your karma, so my guy's kind of evil. And then the data tab, where you can go through, you know, notes you found, listen to holotapes, your various quests, you know, world map, where you can find things, so you can fast travel back to places you've been. Oblivion starts when you step out of the dungeon. You already know some cities and you just go right to them. But with this, you're on foot. You have to discover everything on your own, so it's just a system for getting back to places.
Were you worried that when you put in the fast travel system, people were going to be up in arms about the lack of the the random combat sort of hybrid fast travel that they did in the last 2 games?
I mean, anytime we change anything from the previous games, we're like, this is gonna get us shot. In the original Fallouts, they have an over map that you fast travel through.
Right.
So we do have a system when you just wander the wasteland, you are gonna run into random encounters. We have a really cool random encounter system with these, big trigger boxes that will set off certain things based on what you've done. Making my way down the street here. So I'm on the outskirts of the city. This highway leads in to the downtown area. And so, the wasteland is all the way out there. And it starts to get, as you go through it, it gets more and more urban.
How much of the area outside of Washington, D.C. does it cover?
Well, the scale is so different. It's definitely compressed. This area here, that's all highlighted, that's like the actual downtown DC. And so the mall is over here, Museum of Technology, the Washington Monument, which I've already discovered. And then you can kind of get a sense for the scale of it out here, how big the rest of it is. It's one scale when you're in the city versus the real world, and out in the wasteland, kind of, it feels much bigger than it actually is when you walk it. A 5-minute walk down a road in a game feels like an hour. It just is when nothing happening. So
when I knew that we were going to be seeing this game, it immediately made me want to play the first 2 games again.
Yeah.
So I installed them, and I got almost all the way through the first one before I was like, okay, I'm running out of time to play the second one. But the one thing that I noticed about the first 2 games is that it was kind of rush to the power armor however you could, and then go through the rest of the game.
Yeah, and that actually happened in this, and we found people getting power armor really early in the game. Like, I have power armor, bring it on! And they're like, oh, the game bounce is all out of whack. What we decided to do was add a perk called power armor training. And you can't get it till later.
Nice.
And it felt right, like, okay, you need to learn how to move in this thing.
Yeah.
And so it felt okay to us and fixed the game balance problem of, I found it early, and now I can do what I want, because we want to keep the power armor powerful.
In the time I played it, there's a lot of dirty stuff you can eat. I had about like three fists of vodka, some dirty fetid water, some blowfly flesh, and then a lot of drugs. Like, dude, all these things have different effects on you.
They do. All the food in the game is irradiated in some way, so that you're constantly trying to balance what your overall health is. So this screen is my overall condition, and your individual body parts have condition. And then you have, your RADs. And you can take various drugs to reduce the radiation on yourself or make yourself resistant to it. And then you're trying to balance, well, how much do I want to heal up? And then how irradiated am I? Versus what's the condition on my arms? But that's generally the balance in the game. Radiation versus health.
Right.
This is the VAT system, which I know a lot of people have seen. I have Bloody Mess, which
Yeah, that was one of my favorite perks in the last 2 games.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, the Bloody Mess where every kill is automatically a critical kill. Fallout just wouldn't be Fallout with lots of violence.
Exactly. This is like a raider camp here, where they've set up. Good place to find a lot of things. You can go through these refrigerators. Oh, you asked about the food. Okay, so here we go. Refrigerators are good. Okay, there's probably food in there. So you can see some of the various food types. And then Nuka-Cola works as, a healing source. Let me take all this. But then because bottle caps are also the currency in the game, when you drink the Nuka-Cola, it's going to heal you, but then you're also given a bottle cap. So it's also money.
You got an iguana on a stick.
I do, yeah.
Is it like Oblivion where you can pick up too much and you're overburdened?
Exactly. Yeah, we're a little bit nicer about how much you can carry in this one, because we found, with guns and ammo, people want to have more of each type. Right. With Oblivion, it's okay, you can specialize, like, okay, I can pretty much use this sword, but once you have a consumable resource like ammo, they want to be able to, have a bunch of weapons, and then you get into power armor, it's pretty heavy. And there's also a perk called Strong Back that can make you carry even more.
I thought vampirism worked really well in the Elder Scrolls games. It's often used as an example of the depth of the game and the range of player options. It seemed kind of like a no-brainer that players could become a mutant or something in this, but I hear that that's not the case.
We did toy with it, hey, what if you get mutated and you can gain powers and stuff. We wanted to keep it a little more what your character could do not get into, maybe it's because we did Elder Scrolls, get into the magical, super powery things, though I think it's a natural, in future games. But I will say there are some things with perks and radiation that you can get that make it all not negative.
These lockpicking tools, is that like a bobby pin and a screwdriver?
Right, you just happen to have a screwdriver, it's not in your inventory, it's just, we assume you have one for the game. And then bobby pins are the resource. The controller's vibrating, it's pushing against that bobby pin. And it acts a little bit more like real lockpicking, so I'm told. You gotta find the right angle for the tumblers and then put the torque on the screwdriver. I can show you guys the hacking. So there's that turret over there that the raiders are controlling. And then this is another skill check, like lockpicking, for your science skill. It's like you're in the BIOS of the computer seeing potential passwords. You want to kind of see what like words they have. This is random every time, so I don't even know. So I see file, I see pile. 2 of the 4 letters are correct in the correct position. So it's kind of nice, like the lockpicking, where you feel like you're actually doing it, and you only get 4 chances to do it. See the like words there and pile and wild, so it's definitely I and L.
Right.
You guys can help me out here. It's probably this. Wait. Yeah, okay.
Nice.
So now I'm in the computer. I'm going to deactivate the turret. So now it's not going to shoot anybody. So the rocket launcher is the heavy gun you can make. So this is a weapon you build out of a vacuum and a wood chipper. And you can take all the crap you picked up, and then when you try to fire it, it's going to give you, a container menu. This is all the miscellaneous crap you have. And you can look at its value and be like, well, I don't want to shoot the cleaner. I'll put ashtrays in there. I'll put cigarettes are really valuable, so we're not going to do that. Lunchbox. Teddy bears we like to do, some tin cans, and then they do damage based on how heavy they are. She's afraid of me now.
So now it's individually shooting each of those items?
It's just random, so they'll just shoot the crap out, as it decides. And you can use that in bats.
Wow, so there actually is a use to haul around a whole bunch of junk with you.
Yeah, it kind of changes it, when you get this gun. Like, hey, all that crap I saw. That's a bloody mess. That's actually pretty rare to get with a teddy bear. Get the entire body explosion. This guy's still running around. Let's give him some. The good thing is you can pick these up again.
Nice. One of my main critiques of Oblivion and of Morrowind is that while the role playing was pretty deep, they were profoundly lonely games. It's like you never felt like you were really involved with any of the NPCs. You just kind of did some quests for them or whatever. Is that
agreed.
different in Fallout?
It really is. It was one of the main things that if you look at the difference between the early Fallouts and what we do with the Elder Scrolls, outside of character systems, the prime difference is their characters. That they have much deeper dialogue, they have a lot to say, they have interesting personalities. And with Elder Scrolls, we're kind of not using it as an excuse, but somewhat handicapped because there's thousands of people, so we have to sort of generalize a lot of it. And with this, the good news is, post-apocalyptic, a lot of people are dead. Right? So we've written a lot of specific lines for everybody. Really nice deep dialogue trees, and we're still polishing up. How they look and how they talk. It's probably the reason we're like, we're not showing videos of it yet.
Gotcha.
We will. It looks. When it's really, really done, freely admit there are other games that do it much better in terms of connecting you with the story and the people you're with. We need to rise to that level, and we're really, really happy with the story in this. I think it's honestly by far the best story we've told, and some of that is because we have the ability to with Fallout more than we do in an Elder Scrolls, and we've learned a lot doing it, kind of changing our mindset with how we approach the story.
Is difficulty scaled in the same way that it was in Oblivion?
No, they're not. So we mix it up. There are areas of the game where it's going to get very, very hard. Like as I go down into the city, the super mutants are tough, like from the get-go. We've had people here at E3 with their hands on, just going in a certain direction. We tell them, don't go there, and they go in and just get butchered. But there are also areas of the game where we are going to tailor it to you because we know you have to be here. We don't necessarily want you to leave.
It seems like a good compromise though, because clearly if nothing was scaled, then it's almost like a false choice that you could go anywhere, because really you can just go one place.
Yep.
But in this case, you're still retaining. I've always liked that element of an RPG where you go somewhere and you're aware that it's beyond your ability at the time, but you get a glimpse of what's to come, and then you come back later and you're like, okay, now I'm ready for this stuff.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we didn't do in Oblivion as well. So if you go in an area, even if we're going to put some randomness in it for your level, once you see it, it's set. So if you leave and come back, it's the same thing. People want to feel like a badass, something we underestimated in Oblivion.
So, but people can't abuse the system, right, by just basically doing like a whirlwind tour
Yeah, I
of
shouldn't have said
everything.
that. We don't do it everywhere.
I hate to ask about like the ending already, because it kind of reminds me of like, it's like all the rage of the C3. I keep hearing people ask about downloadable content. They'll see a demo for a game, a new IP, and the first thing they ask about is downloadable content. It's like, what? But in this case, though, I think that the endings do matter, because it has to. I mean, the way that you tell the story is very important to hear, but also of equal importance is the way that you conclude the story. And so, I mean, we hear these numbers, 400, 500, every other week this number expands.
Yeah.
And then we're, at that point, when you have those numbers, it's clearly some sort of procedurally generated
Yeah,
combination.
it's like the previous Fallouts. Yeah, they have that high a number of endings as well. It's a dynamic kind of cutscene storyboard.
Right.
It's narrated by Ron Perlman, who does the intro narration. What he's saying and what you're seeing is based on what you've done. And so there's probably, to be honest, I forget the number, but there's probably 8 main things that we track. Some of those are global, like your karma, how have you lived your life, and then what did you specifically do to change your karma, any really big things, and then individual decision points. Some of those are at the very end of the game, and some of those are at other points of the game. What did you do? It's not this 40-minute long cutscene to end the game, but it's a nice wrap up. It feels natural for what you did. It acknowledges the fact that you did it. So now I'm getting closer to the city. And a lot of these buildings you can go in, that building over there is a library. And so even though we don't call it a quest, you can go in there and there's some Brothers of Steel guys ask you, hey, we're trying to find some old books and technology stuff. And so if you find these pre-war books for them that are in good condition, they'll pay you money. This is the Enclave Vertibird dropping off troops coming after me. Again, I'm later in the game where the Enclave and I are not friends. I've hotkeyed my stim packs there.
Well, you have a low probability. Oh.
It almost doesn't matter with that, except to kill yourself by accident.
Wow.
So yeah,
All right.
there it is.
Fun stuff.